We're answering the question now of how to make chicken stock. But beyond that, we're going to answer the question of how to make and what are the primary white meat stocks that one uses for soup and what we'll call white preparations, if you will, which tend to indicate when that term is used by me or in a recipe or an ingredient list, the term white in that sense means a preparation that doesn't have brown things in it. Like poached salmon would be a white dish, but grilled salmon would be a brown dish, so to speak, or sauteed salmon. That's a very good example right there. So white stock, and the most common white stock is chicken stock. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start the pot that we're going to make chicken stock in today with chicken bones, okay? I have about 5 pounds of chicken bones right here. And then I'm going to show you this is what you do when you want to make chicken stock. But before I begin to make the chicken stock, I'm going to add veal bones to this. I have some veal bones here that have some meat on them. Now, whenever you do that, of course, you have to cook this longer, okay? Because veal bones take longer to extract the flavor. You can make chicken stock in 3 to 5 hours, even 2 or 3 hours, depending on how much and how finely it's chopped up. Veal bones, although those same answers apply to that in terms of the size of the bones against the length of time that you have to cook them, the smaller they're cut up, the quicker you can make the stock. So we're going to begin by putting the 5 pounds of chicken bones into our little stock pot, okay? And I've got a combination of wing tips, I got a couple of backs, I got some necks, I got some breastbones, I've got some carcasses here, you know? And we'll start with that. And then we're going to put our mirepoix, our celery, carrots, and onions, into the pot real quick. This recipe, I believe, calls for about a pound of onions. I think that looks like enough. We'll throw that in there. Now, sometimes, and some cooks, of course, would argue that, well, when you make your stock, first you put the water in, and you put it on the stove, and you bring it up to a simmer, and you remove some of the scum and insoluble particles that come to the surface. Remember, all the things that come to the surface of the pot are insoluble, things that are not soluble with water, or they're fat, which both are not soluble. So if the vegetables are all on top of the pot, they get in the way of the scum coming, and you're getting clean ladles to remove this from, to remove the scum from the top. So some people would say, don't put the vegetables in right away. In the case of the chicken, it doesn't matter as much because it's cooked at a higher rate, and some of the fat you want to leave on top of the pot. Now, this is the only stock where this principle applies, where you don't take all the fat off, because the yellow fat from the chicken gives a little bit of color and a little bit of flavor to the stock itself. Unlike any other stock, chicken fat is good, okay? Of course, you don't want it completely covered in chicken fat because then it will just taste like fat. You don't want that. But you want to maybe take half the fat off and leave half of it on during the cooking process. So anyway, let me get the rest of the vegetables in there. That's very important to understand about the chicken stock and the fat. And let's cut up the celery. Got a couple little brown spots out of there. We get rid of those. Again, always keep in mind, it doesn't matter what the speed is that you're cutting your veggies, it's you're cutting them up the right size. In the case of any stock where it's going to be cooked for hours, you always have to remember one thing about your veg in terms of what size they should be cut. It takes an hour to an hour and 15 minutes to extract the flavor from a vegetable when it's cut, you know, the size of, you know, a quarter box, like say the size of a quarter. So when you want to get the flavor out sooner, you cut them a little bit smaller and it comes out faster, okay? Okay, now I'm going to peel carrots for the last time in this entire course for you, because you need to understand that every time you use carrots in a mirepoix or a stew or anything. I can't think of a single thing in the entire repertoire of cooking where you don't peel the carrots. The reason why is because the peelings, if you really want to find out why, just peel some carrots, wash the peelings, and then eat them. You'll find out that they have an off, slightly bitter flavor, and that flavor ends up inside your stock. So that's the reason why carrots are always peeled in cooking, okay? So we're going to quick peel these. Now this recipe calls for a little bit of garlic. Richard, can you bring me 2 bulbs of garlic, please? Just 2 whole bulbs? Thanks. It's a good thing there's more than one of us around here, otherwise I'd never get any of the cooking done. I always forget something, you know, but that's okay. How do I say? You're never really alone when you're cooking anyway, because you're always cooking for somebody else. All right. Let's get the carrots in there. Let's take the backs off. Cooking something else for another lesson in this class, the fish stock right now in the back, see? And it's starting to come to a simmer, so I'm gonna just mix that around a little bit. Okay, all right. Forget I was involved in that. Let's just stay with me with the chicken stock here. Okay. Okay, there's the carrots. And now we have all of the mirepoix, celery, carrots, and onions in the spot. Now I'm going to take a couple of whole garlic bulbs. I'm going to throw them in there. Cut them in half. And we're going to put a little bit of bay leaf. Thyme, bay leaf, mirepoix, celery, carrots, and onions would be the 5 staple items that go in every stock almost. Can't think of a stock they don't go in. We'll put a few bay leaves in there. Put some of that dried leaf thyme. You can use fresh thyme with the branches of the thyme also if you want to. And all right, there you go. We have all the, Richard, give me a zoom in on this. Now we have all the ingredients here for the chicken stock ready to go. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take some of these veal. I have a combination here of a couple of knuckle and some shin bones that were cut up rather small, and they have some meat on them there, as you can see. We've got some nice meat there. And remember, and I repeat from other stock lessons that are within the same class, is that bones are always a replacement for meat. Meat always makes the best meat stocks. Bones are, of course, the standard replacement, and they turned out great stocks, don't misunderstand me. But meat, when it's available, you want to put it in a meat stock because it will make it meatier, you know. All right, so I'm going to take veal bones now. We're going to make, if I was just going to make chicken stock, I'd put this on the fire right now, cover it with the water, bring it to a simmer, and I would cook it for 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, whatever I think, based on how fast I cook it and how small they were cut up. And these were cut up like this. This is, you know, this chicken stock will be ready in 4 or 5 hours. Now, if I leave it overnight, it'll probably be even better, but not that much better. But it will be mainly complete 5, 6 hours. I have a tendency to cook things overnight all the time just because I think I want to make sure I get everything that's available.